pyramid, right? In Egypt, right? So this is what we actually see when we look at the pyramids. We take a look at that, we say, okay, so they don't know who built them. It's like, you know, it's always some kind of mystery about where they go. But if you actually pay attention and you know like the actual full diagram of the pyramid, it's actually like this. So the ground, and they have an inverted pyramid under it. So, and back in the day, back when these were actually built in the desert, so it wasn't an actual desert where these actual pyramids were. So it used to be full of water and everything like that. So it was like a vast place where there was a lot of vegetation and everything. It wasn't an actual desert. So, and the reason why that's important is because if you take a look at this actual shape, this is actually pretty much the shape of creation. And I'll explain. So what happens in the pyramids, so what they actually did when they buried like the pharaohs and everything in the pyramids, what they did is they kind of put them right here, right? And so they had a way for natural light to kind of come in this way, and it would hit out the pharaoh and all of his stuff. And down here in the darkness below, where they had like the water kind of running through there, what would happen is that positive energy would go through here and then come down this way, and then that's where light happens. So you have the conductor, which is the water, you have the dark energy, and you have the positive energy from the sun, and bam, and they would shoot they would send them up. So that's kind of what this was actually built for. So that's an actual diagram. So if all we see is the actual top part here, and we don't actually see that bottom part, then we basically have half of the story. And the reason why that's important is because if you're actually looking at the shape, that actual shape there is really just a variation of a building block. So everything is pretty much based on like triangles, and then we have cubes, and things like that. Those are basically like the building blocks that we have for this existence here. So if you take a look at that pyramid, and then you flip one of them over, you get this, right? So that might look familiar to some people, but to some people it actually might not. So right here is going to be your equator, and if you take this off here, you can actually see that that's more like, let me just put a head right here. So we can say this is actually like the construct of the body. So we got the arms, we got the legs spread out, right? And right here, where the two pyramids connect, would be our center or our navel. And so that's basically going to be where our sun chakra, our solar, our center is right there. So, and I'll kind of get more into the chakras and the energy a little bit later to kind of explain how that can be significant. So when you take a look at this and you say, okay, so if he's saying this is kind of how the body is built, what actually makes sense too, when you actually see this as kind of like an X representing the body, then you can look at our sex chromosomes. So if you take a look at the man, it's YX for the sex chromosome. The woman, it's 2 X's, right? So what this will actually tell you is it all kind of translates. It all kind of lets you know. So if you take a look at these here and you see the difference between the two, for the man and for the woman, with the woman you have 2 complete X's, right? And with the man, you have the Y and an X. So this Y is basically an incomplete X, right? And so the reason why the man is the Y and the woman is an X is because here in this existence, we all have both of these. This will represent our spirit. It's ambidextrous. There's no sex to it, right? So we all have that. But then when we come here, usually people lean one way or the other when it comes to sex. So either you're going to be a man or a woman. Some people come here as both, right? But the reason why this right here would be incomplete is because the woman has the womb. And from the womb, there's nothing else here that can actually do what the human womb can do, which is basically bring out another human that can control time and space. Bring out somebody that basically can control all this, another being, right? So they have people that are trying to clone. They got people that are trying to take melanin and inject and all that kind of stuff. They have all kind of people trying to figure out how to do this. by themselves, without the woman, right? So if you're taking a look at that, and you see why this is a why we're incomplete, because all we have as a man is the actual seed, right? And so the woman doesn't even need us to be there, technically, right? She can go into the freezer, grab something, and have a baby, right? So that lets you know right there, kind of, just on a surface level, kind of like the power that the feminine has here in its existence, right? And the reason why that is important is because what happens in our society is everything is kind of, we're shown that we should disrespect the female. Everything is about the woman having to catch up, basically. So it's, when we look at a woman, it's how we're thinking about her promiscuity, what she's doing, and all this kind of stuff. We're very hard on women, right? And women are like, you think about the judge. They had that judge, the Kavanaugh guy, right? He just got, right? So, right. But you see the whole situation with that, and you see how you can have a woman tell her story, and they still like, well, we just don't know. That's, you know, the same. You know, there's always this level of disrespect, right? And it goes down to like how we treat the woman, to even when you are eating a hamburger or drinking milk from a cow. That is disrespectful to your mother, because basically in other countries that actually represents the mother. So like over in India, they don't eat cow meat, they don't eat beef. So when you're eating a hamburger over here, that could be something that can actually have you basically disrespecting your mother. So that right there is on a deep level, and I'll tell you why. And the reason why he was able to kind of be like that. So most people in here were born Christians, right? I mean, not born Christians, but kind of were brought up in the Baptist church with Christianity and everything. So what's the number one thing that you want to stay away from to get into heaven? Sin, right? Here goes something that's interesting. So we know that the sun is positive energy, right? Now the moon is negative energy. The moon is female. That's the female energy here, right? So that's why like the crescent moon kind of represents like a variation, like, you know, you can go in there like the V, you gotta go in there. So back in Sumeria and Mesopotamia, the moon was actually known as either Nana or Sin. Interesting, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about that, it's like you're taught at an early age to fear sin, and that's basically synonymous with the female. You're taught to stay away from it. I don't want to understand it. I want to get away from it, right? So at a very basic level, you don't want to get to know. And so with sin being synonymous with the female, you might not even know that, but it's all ingrained. So that's synonymous with the female, and what you're trying to do is, or what you actually would want to understand is that it's all part of you. So there isn't anything in this existence that you should be afraid of, that you should want to push away, because it's all here and it's all us, right? So here in this space we have, so everybody knows what this means, right? If I were to write an equation and I have that, so I have like, let's say 1 plus 1, that would equal 2, right? So we all know what this means. We know that this and this are the same. That's what this basically represents in time and space. So what this actually right here would actually represent would be the duality here. So this is basically, in our reality, we have the two concurrent energies. We have the positive and the negative, and in this space, that's what equals this, right? So when you take a look at that, and you see that in our existence, that basically everything kind of works on a positive and negative, you have to change the way you think about positive and negative, being good and bad, because it all needs to work together. Like, so, for example, if you have a battery, which is basically kind of what we are on, right? If you have a battery, you have two poles to that battery. You have a positive and you have a negative, and in the middle of that battery, it basically, so you have the top of the battery here, which is going to be a positive, and then you have your negative charge down here. And in the middle right here is where all the actual energy can flow. That's where that energy can flow because of the polarity, So when you understand that, and then you also understand that negative and positive and good and bad aren't necessarily the same thing, it allows you to understand that all of this is needed to work, right? So if you are going to shun something, you are basically shunning half of yourself, right? So this doesn't mean, I'm not saying just go out and act crazy and do everything, you know, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is you cannot look at it in a way, because what happens here, so just like that whole judge situation, we're sitting up here, everybody was going through this whole process of trying to figure out if this judge, if we should appoint this judge to be able to make decisions for us. So we use our judgment to see if this guy could actually make decisions for us, if he was going to be a good judge, right? Which is crazy in itself. But what we do automatically is, because we are in an area where we have a positive and a negative, and we have half of it being shunned and everything, what we do immediately is we want to stay away from the bad, right? We want to stay away from the bad. We want to get to the good because we want to go to heaven. We want to get there. We don't want to, you know, once God wants to judge us, we want to be like, hey, look at my tape. I did the best I could. You know, that's what we want to do. So we immediately judge things. Immediately, we like it or we don't. We don't necessarily take it all in and take a full look at the situation because it's easier. Because they got a lot of other things going on you got to think about too. So we got to go to work every day. You know what I mean? We got bills to pay. We got all these other things. We got kids. We got all this other stuff that's on our mind. So when we take in something new, it's easier for us to judge it, to see if we want to fool with it or to see if we don't, right? And so what can happen with that type of mentality is you're not really getting the full picture. So if you take a look at the body, so I'll erase this here. So we'll go back to the crystalline body. That's actually what this represents. We have the flesh over the crystalline body, which is why we respond to crystals and everything like that, because yeah, we have them in us. That's kind of how that works. So if you look at the crystalline body and you take a look here, this would be where your soul chakra is, right? So this is where your sun, this is your center. Right here would be where your sacral chakra is. And that right there is basically the genitals. That's basically the sex organ. So when you're looking at it in terms of that, and then right below that would be, like right at the base of your spine would be like your root chakra. So when we come into this existence, basically everything is being ran by this. It's all about, like when they say sex sells and everything like that, it's all about the pleasures, and it's all about taking everything for face value. Because here is where you can project everything that you want. And this is just, it can be paradise or it can be hell. If you are taking a look at everything and you seeing everything you ain't got, this place here can look really bad to you. But if you have a full understanding of where you actually are and what this is, then this can actually become a greater experience for you. So when you take a look at the actual chakras, you have your root chakra, and then you have your sacral chakra, and then you have your sun here, and then if you go up, you have your heart, and then you have your throat, and then you have your crown, and then right below that you have a third eye, right? So, and these are all up along the spine. So the root chakra is at the very base of your spine, and then your sacral is going to be in the spine, but it's, you know, it's the sex organ, and then right above that, along the spine, right in here, is going to be your solar chakra, right? So all of these different chakras correspond to different energies. Correspond to different energies, and so they have celestial bodies up there, planets, that basically are, that we correspond to, that kind of focus on these energies. So when you're taking a look at kind of where we are, so since we come in here, and we're kind of right here, that's why, you know, sex sales, what you have to do is understand that everything down here is actually at a lower vibration. So everything down here is at a lower vibration, and everything up here is at a higher vibration. So what happens here is you have your base, and then you have, which is the lower vibration, and you have the top, which is your higher vibration. And so what happens is, everything down here, even though it's lower vibration and it's below, doesn't mean it's bad. It's still part of you. What you have to do, and what you have to understand, is this is going to be how you are rooted. This is going to be how you exist here, and up here is kind of your center, right? So what you have to do is kind of understand. So when they talk about, so when I showed you
I got a question here.
Okay.
When you mentioned the center point, the sacral section, it made sense because when the baby is born, the umbilical cord is attached to the navel.
Right.
And that's how it come through the portal. And so that makes sense what you're saying by that being the center
Right.
of this reality.
Right. So that's kind of right where you are. That's where you're connected to your mother and everything. That's why, and we keep that belly button down.
Gotcha.
All right. So when you take a look at that diamond again, that is actually, so they have crystals and they have planets that correspond to the chakras, right? So the sacral chakra would actually be corresponding with the diamond, right? So when you think about the diamond, when you first find one, right, it's usually they find it underground, it's been under a lot of pressure, and you find it is kind of cloudy, right? So before they sell it and put it on some jewelry or something like that, you have to cut it, right? You have to cut it, and you have to make it look nice. So it's basically kind of building your foundation, right? So when you're doing that, what you also have to understand is, so with the word diamond, you also have to understand like how it sounds and what it, and like the where words actually come from. So when we go with a diamond, they spell like this. Right? A diamond, and then think about it like this. If anybody, I don't even know what that is. Anybody know what that is?
The devil, right?
Damien? You ever heard that before? So Damien, sounds a lot like Diamond, right? Damien, it was like in the movie, I forget what it's called. The Omen, yeah. So he was, The Omen. So he was basically the Antichrist coming back, right? His name was Damien, right? So that's also where the word demon comes from, right? So when you hear people talking about demons and everything like that, that's basically down here. They have these demons and everything that they're fighting against, because down here in the lower area, they're thinking that a lot of the stuff that they don't want to explore all of this down here because they think it's all bad, right? So they're like, these demons never forget and everything like that. So that's why you have to go down there and actually understand that that's part of you and actually kind of shape it. And when you actually do that, so when you hear like a song like Rihanna talking about shining bright like a diamond, or when you watch the movie Twilight and the vampires are out in the sun and they shine and glisten and everything, and that all comes into play because that shininess is kind of coming from down here. So when you realize that, and then also, so the root chakra, as far as the root, which is your baseline, it's the lowest level that you have. What happens is, that's actually affiliated with Mars. So that's the planet that's kind of associated with it. And the interesting thing about Mars too, is that now people associate it with Aries. They like the planet with Aries was basically like war, right? But back in the day, Mars was actually about fertility and vegetation. And it's an actual negative energy, which means it's a female. It's an actual female planet. But that's in your base. And you also think about when you want to think about how you've been taught to hate your mother. If they tell you that your base, and they tell you like the Mars energy and everything is male because it's strong, then you kind of get they take that away from the female, then you don't see the strength in the female, right? It's kind of another way to kind of get you to go away from that. All right, so you have Mars down here kind of associated with that. That's your root. And also with the root is also where you get the connection. So a lot of people say with the root chakra, that's kind of where the I am is. That's where the primal you is. That's your connection to your ancestors. So down there at your roots, and that's why they had like the series Roots when they talk about that. Survival. Yeah, survival and everything. So down there is kind of your connection to your ancestral links. And so when you understand that, and you can understand, but see that's your base, that's your strength. You can understand that, and then you can kind of go up here and kind of understand where we are and understand the diamonds and demons and sin and everything like that is something that you actually need to explore. What you're able to do when you realize that is we're able to, so first off, what happens is, in our reality, what we do usually is we'll kind of take a look at everything from down here. So when we see somebody, usually about how good they look. Like, am I attracted to that person or what they have? You know, it's all about everything on the surface, right? So up here, and this is all about surface stuff right here, and this is all about instinct down here when you get a little bit lower, right? So when you start to get up to these energies up here, which actually, you know, go at a higher level, it takes it out of this space here. And so when you start to actually think about things from a holistic level, where you're taking that lower energy and kind of combining it with your higher energies and higher concepts. So like you take a look at somebody and it goes from how good they look to how good their character is, right? So you're able to kind of, instead of taking everything at face value, you take a step back and actually use more of this up here to actually make a decision to actually see and to actually read signs. So what happens with most people is we would get here, come into the existence here, and then be broken, not understanding about duality and everything like that, and then we get to about right here. If anybody can see that. So we're kind of like right above our like lowest self, but we're right below kind of that area where we really, so basically the sacral chakra is all that we understand because we're under. We're looking up to that and that's all we understand and we think that that's all that there is. We're like, okay, I gotta be able to, I can't be happy unless I get these things. I can't be happy unless I have this. It makes you think that everything on the surface is all that there actually is and you don't actually expand. So in order to kind of, and right here, if you think about it, so if your consciousness is at that level and all you think about is not having and everything, right? And then you also don't think that you have the power to change anything, right? So you're kind of helpless, you're in turmoil, and basically you're in hell, right? So you see a lot of people walking around here mad, complaining about all kinds of stuff they dealing with and everything, making mountains out of molehills and everything because they don't understand that they have the power to change it. It's all about what somebody did to them. It's all about somebody not letting them have something. It's all about they don't believe that they have the power to change anything, right? So in order to get out of that, what you have to understand is that we do. Every change that you make, the universe moves with you. Everything that you do, it responds. So, and it responds to your intent too. So it responds to how you think. So if you come out here and you're gonna try to swindle folks and all that kind of stuff that come back on you, if you are trying to actually help people and everything, that's gonna come back to you. So it depends on your intent. And that's why they say, like, this is like, so if you're looking at your dollar bill, and you see on that dollar bill, I think I got one. So, let's see exactly what it said. Right, so, you see on the dollar bill, how they have this pyramid here, right? So this pyramid right here represents the base that I drew right there. And then I, that all-seeing eye, what that actually represents is the sacral chakra. So what they're saying is we have control of this. That's what that all-seeing eye means, is that we basically have control. But see, if you notice, everything here, so in our reality, what we have is we're trying to accomplish balance. That's one thing that you gotta remember. So we're trying to accomplish balance in this reality. So if you notice where the actual sacral chakra is, it's not in your center, right? It's not there. It's right below. And then you got a whole bunch of other stuff that's not being used, right? So the reason why that can actually be effective is because it just basically keeps you in balance. Just like we have this here, this actually will represent a balance, right? And so, well, I got this. I'll take it here. So you take a look at this here. This kind of represents, the positive and negative, like the duality, right? And that kind of shows you what can equal what in each space. But it's like everything can be turned and inverted and everything like that. So if we actually were to take these two right here and do this, right? This will still represent those two sides, right? But then we do this. What do you have? Right. So you have H, right? So that actually starts off human, he, she, and all that. And why? Why would that do that? Because if you take a look at it, if this is the same thing as this here, we have a top and a bottom. So basically that represents duality being split, right? And so when you take a look at that H, when it comes to that H, let's take a look at this here. So we have an H. And what's similar about these two?
One is straight lines and the other one's a slant.
Right. So this one up here is that slant, right?
Yeah.
So it's closed off, and why? Why is it closed off? Right at that
Like
crown.
an apple.
Right, like an apple. It starts apple, but why? So if you mash these two together, you're thinking about this being positive and this being negative, and you have your base standing here up the top at that crown is where, that's where the balance comes. That's where they meet. And that starts angel. You know what I mean? Angle, that there. That shows you why that starts our alphabet. So it's all about balance and being able to, like, stability. So when you don't take and use everything to kind of see, and then you are stuck in a place where you're not understanding that all of this is here for us and we need to explore it and kind of understand it. We're scared of stuff, we're shunning things. It does not allow any of these chakras up here to really activate. You stay down here in these low energies, and it also allows these other low energy beings and stuff like that. When people get possessed by demons, demonic possession and stuff, it's because their chakras and stuff isn't hitting high enough. It's basically they're at such a low level that they're susceptible. Right? So the point of this, with all this crazy energy, I can ramble. Sorry, guys. The point of all of this is basically to understand that we have to start to understand that there's not really a good and a bad. We have to start to understand that it's all about being whole. It's all about understanding. It's all about, we can have everything that we want here, right? So we get stuck in here, you get stuck in this area, you start thinking about stuff like scarcity. You start saying stuff like people sending you, showing commercials with kids over in Africa starving and all kinds of stuff. You're like, man, folks ain't got nothing to eat. When in reality, they're the ones that was taking all the resources and trying to get you to send money over there, right? It's all, there's enough for everybody. You can walk outside and find food. There's enough here. And then we continue to create, we're manifesting. So there's no scarcity, there's enough, and you can change anything, and then don't be afraid to understand your full self. There isn't a part of you that's bad. Because when you start thinking about that, if you start thinking about someone you as bad, you start projecting on other people, you start looking at them and talking about them based on how you feel about yourself. Right? So, and that's where the judgment comes, that's where the split comes. So the point of all this is to kind of understand where we kind of start, and then to kind of, you study your chakras and everything, and then you kind of understand what the energy is going to be, and then you begin to become more of a balanced person. So don't get caught up in the good and the bad. Don't get caught up in what you can't have and everything like that, and begin to concentrate on changing things because you have the power. So that's pretty much all I have.